Hello and welcome to this panel discussion today here from Berlin. And we will focus on corporate innovation in Berlin and India. And a first welcome will now come from Almut, who is with us virtually today from, I think it's Hamburg, Almut.
Thank you. We were wondering whether Dr.
He has dropped an email before informing this. Yeah.
Mr. Sampat. Okay. Good. So the panel would be complete. We are waiting for this indication of the technical assistance that we should start.
Yes, we can start. The tech is ready. We are live. We have some visitors who are joining us here in Berlin, live as well. Super nice. So I guess, Almut, do we have Dr. Sairam Palicherla with us now?
No, we have the co-founder, Mr. Sampat from UrbanKisaan joining us. He has to fill in briefly. So he is here with us, Mr. Sampat.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Sampat, for joining and being so spontaneously. So Almut, handing over to you for some welcoming words.
Thank you, Oina. A very warm welcome to today's track 3, Corporate Innovation in Berlin and India, as part of India Day at the Asia Berlin Summit 2021. Hello to those joining us from Berlin and other parts of Germany, and a good evening to participants from across India. My name is Almut and I'm the executive member of the board of OEV, the German Asia-Pacific Business Association, which is one of the co-organizers of India Day beside the German India Startup Exchange Program, GINSA, and the Asia Berlin Summit. OEV is delighted to be partner again this year, as we have been for many years before. In our 21-year-long history as an organization supporting German companies active in Asia or interested to enter markets in the dynamic Asia-Pacific region, OEV has supported many entrepreneurial-minded tradesmen and brave businesswomen grow and launch successful corporations with partners in India and other Asian countries, long before the term startup was coined. As bridge builders, we aim to connect established corporates with the vibrant startup communities that exist in Germany, and especially in Berlin, and in Asia. In this regard, India is of particular interest for German companies. The country is currently home to around 38,000 startups, and the startup ecosystem in India is considered to be the third largest in the world, having created 38 unicorns as of January 21. Thus, OEV is delighted to contribute to today's program with a panel discussion, bringing practitioners from different worlds here together, from Germany and India, but also from the world of large corporates like Kovestro and internationally companies, as well as young driving startups from India. In addition to today's session on corporate innovation in Berlin and India, we are hosting also tomorrow a special edition on the German-Singapore Business Forum Connect, Singapore as a launchpad for green tech startups. For those interested, have a look at the program. It's tomorrow from 10 to 11:30. With now no further ado, I would like to give the word to Ms. Oina Kerchner, Assistant Director and Leader of EY Wavespace Berlin from Ernst & Young, and she will now introduce the panelists and be hosting the session today.
Thank you, Almut. And great that we will talk today about the topic of corporate innovation. And maybe a short thing before we begin, why is this topic so important? The big corporates are wondering and need to change, and often this is not possible from the inside. But there are startups out there that have ideas to disrupt the market, to bring in fresh and new ideas, and they were always good in challenging existing business models. So in order that the corporates don't only stay where they are and just are focusing on their existing business, maybe leaving out other opportunities, there is like this big opportunity if they both come together and if like corporates invest into startups and scale their ideas. And this is why I'm delighted to introduce to you the panelists that are discussing about this topic here today. And we have from India, Mohammed Anzy. You are the CEO of SAP. It is the biggest SAP lab that you are leading outside of Germany. So SAP has like about 20 different labs in 17 countries, and I think it's a big message that in India it's the biggest one outside of the headquarters in Germany. So we are super delighted and welcome here to this panel.
Thank you.
And as we also talk about startups and not only corporates, great to have you here with us as well from India joining Mr. Santap, co-founder from UrbanKisaan. And UrbanKisaan is quite a successful startup in India. They were rewarded Startup of the Year 2021, so this year, by the Economic Times, and Company of the Year 2021 by the Inner Review. And you just got an investment from BASF, which is absolutely amazing. Congrats to that. And we are happy to have you on the panel today. And then joining us here on the stage from Berlin, we have Dr. Frank Holtrup from Kovestro AG. You built and you are leading since 2015 the liaison office for Kovestro. It's here in Berlin. Kovestro is one of the leading suppliers of premium polymers, and their innovative solutions are used in automotive, construction, the wood industry, and many, many others. And you also have the Kovestro Venture Capital team that invests in startups and scale-ups. So I think we have a wonderful mix here to discuss the topic of corporate innovation in India and in Berlin today. And I would like to start and ask you, Anzy, what should we know from your perspective about corporate innovation and the SAP labs before we start with the panel and questions?
Again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. I've been extremely delighted to be here. I think all of us know, right, SAP being a startup some time back, and we've been helping startups through our different initiatives, be it globally SAP.io program, or in India we do have a program which is called SAP Startup Studio. And one of the core fundamentals that we always believe in is open innovation and making sure that the innovation doesn't have any kind of boundaries. And that's exactly that we also believe in. And irrespective of the technology, the domain, and the kind of functional use cases that the startup comes with, we kind of support them and kind of help them to scale, reach scale is something that we really do. At SAP Labs India, we kind of very closely work with GINSAP. I mean, GINSAP is also one of our strategic partners, and help kind of foster cross-border investment, kind of help the startups across different geographies to kind of reach scale. And again, it's very, very excited to share that in the current cohort that we have, we do have a couple of startups from Germany, and it's actually scaling up. Again, to the core of what we are discussing here, we have to deconstruct the boundaries of innovation. I don't think we have to call it corporate innovation or the startup innovation. It's all innovation, and the purpose is to make sure that every idea gets an opportunity to scale. That's something that we at SAP believe.
Perfect. And one question, you have been with SAP for over 15 years. So what does corporate innovation mean for you and for SAP?
There are, just like a forest, every tree has an opportunity. The same way we look at, there are spaces, every organization can build their innovation, and there are platform plays where we, at SAP, we help other organizations to make sure that they can innovate and plug into our solution. The same way for startups, one of the key objective or kind of hurdles is in terms of access to the market. And that's where at SAP we help a lot of other startups to kind of build solution on top of our different platforms, and also kind of work together with some of the core applications that we have. And then we help the startups to go to our customers and kind of have a joint GTM, which is go-to-market strategy, and kind of help these startups to create the right access towards the market.
Thank you very much. And moving then on to our next panelist, Dr. Santap, or is it Santap? Please, I mean, you joined us last minute. I'm so happy that you're here and that we could get a co-founder of UrbanKisaan. So maybe you want to say some words about you to introduce yourself and also the amazing company that you founded.
Sure. Myself, Sampath. So I'm the co-founder and COO. So just to give a brief introduction about UrbanKisaan, why it started is, see, basically the problems in the prevailing agronomics are concerning. The widespread drought, the pest-driven crop failures, and the strained demand market flushed with produce laced with pesticides and challenging growing conditions. The soil in the farmlands is degrading due to indiscriminate use of fertilizers and pesticides and careless discharge of the polluted industrial effluents in the municipal sewage waters, especially in India, if you see. And the farmlands are ultimately leading to unfertile, where the farmers, who are the backbone of the Indian economy, are in severe distress and are running short on both resources and as well as technological information. At UrbanKisaan, every day we research towards creating robust and reliable agri-tech that is aimed towards empowering even a medium and a marginal farmer to deploy our tech in their farms at an ease and with little financial burden. We are determined to help a growing farmer by not only using the best technologies, but also channeling their quality of produce through our brand. So what we do, we have our stores, UrbanKisaan stores, which is a miniature UrbanKisaan farm also, which is located conveniently near you. You could just walk in, harvest fresh greens and vegetables straight from our shelves, assuring you that the freshest and the purest quality with the highest nutrition value is right in front of you and you would see it. You could also pick fresh fruits from the shelves, which we directly source from our farmers.
That sounds amazing. I was already wondering how your vertical garden would look like, because you have such a nice background image of these flowers there. But it's nice to hear that you can also eat what is growing there. Very cool. So what was and maybe still is most important for your success? We learned that you were rewarded as one of the very successful startups in India. So what is crucial for your success?
I would say that our core R&D department is one of the main key to our success, because there have been many players coming to enter the fruits and vegetables market as a segment. But what we do is our scientists work with our farmers, educating them, upskilling them on the ground, and make them use the best progressive farming techniques using hydroponics especially and vertical farming. It starts with identifying the seed varieties, proper seeding techniques to plant nutrient formulations. We have our own nutrient formulations. And the lucky part, or the most ideal part, is apart from the yield, the sustainable farming will also consume a lot less percentage of water. It is, in fact, 95% less than traditional soil farming. So we are also moving towards using the power of solar to run the farms, and also reducing the carbon footprint by making it as much hyper-local as possible. And yes, more than anything, it's the employment opportunity which is available, for which we are also grateful.
Thank you. And Frank, you are here from Kovestro AG. What is your position towards innovation, and what is Kovestro at the moment doing there?
Let me use the 3 minutes to answer 3 questions. First, who is Kovestro? Kovestro is a company which manufactures high-performance plastics. Most of you use them in their daily lives without even knowing that they are from us. Be it your seat cushions, your mattresses where you sleep on, your car seats, insulation in your refrigerator, your jogging shoes, glasses. So we are basically, whenever you are in the city, you are never more than 5 meters away from one of our products. We have 12 billion in sales, 6,500 employees worldwide. And we were founded in 2015 only, so we are only 6 years old. So basically, we are a startup ourselves. However, we belonged to a big company, to Bayer. And Bayer, of course, exists since 150 years. So we are a startup with an 80-year history. How do we do innovation? Of course, we have research on our own. About every 10th employee is in research and development. But of course, we also do external research together with either other industrials. There's a project where together with ThyssenKrupp, we take their waste gas from the steel production and try to make chemicals out of them. We cooperate with universities. We support external research by awarding a Kovestro Science Award. And of course, recently we have invested venture capital into startups. As we are only 6 years old, our venture capital department is even younger. It's only 3 years old. So far, we have had only 3 deals, but we expect more to come.
More to come is something good to hear. And for people that might be interested and learn, like, what do they need to do? Like, what criteria do you use if you look where do you want to invest? So what criteria do startups have to fulfill in order to be attractive for your company?
It has to be a company that works in one of our areas. So we want to be a strategic investor. We do not want to be a financial investor. We have defined 6 focus areas, so they should be in one of these areas. They should be not in the seed funding anymore, but in Series A or B. We want to be a minority investor, and we want to invest between 1 and 5 million euros only.
That are very clear criteria. That's good. I think it's something that everybody can like check if there is a fit, right? Cool. So this is the group here with us today on the panel. And are there any questions here from the audience? No, but we brought some questions, and maybe some questions will arise during the discussion. So my first question is to you, Anzy, from SAP. So how does corporate innovation work in India? Maybe not everybody is familiar with like a lot of details about the Indian market. Maybe we have some guests here that know that there are like some fairs and events and corporations and networks in Germany. But is there something specific about the current corporate innovation landscape in India?
Yeah, so some specific, there is a significant startup market in India, but primarily driven into specific verticals, because one of the key challenges for the startups in India is a lot of times the market has to be created. I mean, there is a consolidation and in terms of driving that. If you look at the fintech, if you look at the health tech startups, and if you look at the startups which are working in education-related like sectors, right? You will see more of the startups coming together and creating that market. I mean, the market creation itself is a big challenge for a lot of startups. And in addition to that, we also see a significant growth in tech startups. I mean, if you look at 5-6 years back, the amount of tech startups which are coming out of India was very, very low. And that's where an organization like SAP kind of pitched in and created frameworks and support systems to help these tech startups, deep tech startups, to kind of build their use cases and build their platforms out of India and then kind of market it, become kind of exposed to a global market. And that's primarily that we are also doing. At SAP, which is also a SAP Startup Studio, it's a program for startups in India. We kind of curate 10 to 15 startups who are working on deep tech topics, and we kind of give a kind of opportunity to be associated with SAP for close to 1 year. It's a 1 year to 12 months program where we take them through the different opportunities. We also guide them in terms of what are the different technologies that they can leverage in terms of building that scale. So that's one topic that we are really looking at in terms of fostering and helping core tech or deep tech startups to build their products out of India. And That has really kind of helped us to create market for these startups. And again, we also take these deep-tech startups to outside India and again to markets in Europe and in Americas, and help them to do the go-to-market. And that's where we at SAP really create value for these startups.
Thank you. And Vantab, report us about for like UrbanKisaan. You got this BASF investment in July this year. So what exactly are they doing together with you? How does this cooperation look like? So tell us a bit more about like what this investment means for your company.
Yes. So as I mentioned, the core strength what our company has is our R&D, and that is what we've been looking at for a right partner. It's just not about the investment, but it's also about the long-term partnership. So especially for a startup like us, it adds a lot of value and it gives us a lot of pleasure for BASF shaking hands with them, because the seed varieties, for example, if we speak about Indian market, there is a particular variety of okra, which is developed by us. So those type of innovations have been always backed by BASF, and we are closely working with them with specifically with regards to breeding and also farming techniques. And also it is a lot of learning for us as well due to their vast experience, so that we need not make the same mistakes. We can learn from them and adapt to our fast growing economy and grow at a faster pace. At the same time, this somehow even our research and development, this tropical climate research and development, whatever we've been doing, will help them as well in a way where we could give them our outputs immediately for any action plan. So primarily what I'm trying to say is that the R&D department, the core strength of us, is always the main joining hand for us with BASF.
And how can I imagine that, like on a daily basis? Do you have like regular touch points with them, or do you have like some connections that you reach out like once a month, or you just connect with them like if there like arises a problem? So how exactly is the relationship and the cooperation there between you and this big corporate?
Yes, we had the similar. We did not understand the expectation in the early stage, but we were surprised, and we are so happy about the way they are extending their hands. Yes, as a review meeting we'll be having once a month, but they have a team in India who is there for us for every small idea or any new innovation which we have in our mind. We share with them, so that any expertise or any data transfer which they have from their side, they will give it to us immediately. And the reviews once a month will always help us.
Perfect. How is it handled at SAP Anzy? If you cooperate with startups or other companies, do you also have like regular touch points, or how do you really live a cooperation if you decide to support and maybe scale a startup?
So again, for SAP, we do have an in-house accelerator, which is called SAP Startup Studio. So it's a close to 100-seater facility that we extend to the startup. So these startups, the early stage startups, has an opportunity to come on board to our campus and work out of this facility. As I mentioned, we kind of extend them a 1-year program through which we kind of help the startups to build their framework, build the technology stack, and also help the startups to kind of refine their problem statement in terms of what they are going to address. And on the last phase, we also kind of help the startups to kind of connect with the market, and we also have opportunities where they will be able to build on top of our existing stack, or kind of work together with some of our core applications and kind of co-creating an application together with these startups. And then we help these startups to take these integration or this co-created solution to the market with the help of our sales force. and make these different markets accessible for this startup. Again, one disclaimer is that we kind of look at technology startup, which I said, the deep tech startup, which are out there. And our core belief is that, the startup should be able to provide a solution through the power of technology, not really scaling the number of people available to support it, but rather the technology should be at the center of helping or solving this problem statement. And that's the kind of mandate that we do. Again, this is a one-year journey that we take each of these startups. Again, we don't even look at the number of startups, but we kind of set aside kind of a target of 15 to 20 startups every year, and we kind of help them scale. And two of our startup, one of our startup, which was part of the 2016 cohort, is a unicorn now in India. So that itself is a testament to the program itself. Yeah.
Thanks for the insights. And Frank, you mentioned that Kovestro already closed some deals, like 3 investments you mentioned. Mention maybe one. Why did you decide to go with that company? Why did you decide to invest as a corporation?
Let me name CST, Crime, Science, Technology. Sounds like a TV series, but actually it's a small French startup. What Kovestro does, we produce macrofoil foils, and you know them from your ID card, from your passport. So they are very forge-proof, which in nowadays is more and more important. And this company, Crime, Science, Technology, developed a technology that made passports even more forgery-proof. So basically they were putting on more knowledge onto what we already had, so they were advancing us in this direction. And many Bundesbank or Bundesdruckerei are among our customers, and of course we want to keep our lead with our materials, and so we invested into Crime Science Technology.
Thank you. So it sounds that you look for startups or companies that fit kind of to your portfolio. So because I was wondering now, like having you here together in this panel, like if you would, for example, invest in something like vertical gardening, but I think is this something like too far away, or where is kind of the line where you say like this is now no longer our core business?
Yes, this would be a little far-fetched. I have to say, the 6 areas which we are looking into are biotechnology, like enzymatic reactions, and bio-based raw materials. Then new markets and new materials like these forgery-proof passports, digital technologies, of course, the whole world is getting more digital, and circular economy. That's also one of our most important drivers right now, because we know the linear economy will end. At one point in time, there will be no more crude oil to produce new plastics. We will have to use other sources. And then, of course, additive manufacturing, like 3D printing, which is also coming. This is what we are looking for. And how do we find these companies? Basically, all of our employees are our scouts. So they know in their business fields what companies are innovative, and they then propose these companies. We don't have a formalized application process. Basically, our employees are our scouts.
And maybe now as well, the listeners to this panel could also act as a scout and probably give you, I mean, you named in the beginning the criteria that are relevant for you. So everybody who listened closely and knows a company, then get in contact, right? Vanta, for like UrbanKisaan, I think now hearing from Kovestro what is like important for them, I think, or my initial thought would not have been that like BASF would invest into vertical gardening. So maybe let us know what convinced them that it is super important to cooperate with you and to invest in your startup.
In India, specifically, the pain point is very high of fresh food. The vertical gardening, what we are trying to solve is less space, obviously, but still it is more about clean food, providing clean food to masses. That is what we are looking at together. if we are able to provide clean food for a particular segmented class people, it would not solve our purpose. BSF is with us to solve the bigger purpose. We ourselves alone would only cater to maybe a niche segment. But right now with BSF, with the technology innovation and the backing which we have, we will be able to create the SOPs, the IoTs, and all the technology which is required for farming at a cheaper cost, which will help us to onboard more and more farmers, which will obviously make clean produce and the clean farming more accessible and more affordable.
Thank you. And Anzy, from like an SAP perspective, we learned from Kovestro that like basically every employee is kind of scouting and maybe seeing like an interesting company. Is there like a dedicated process that you live in SAP to find your right partners?
Yeah, so I think there are two ways that we kind of approach the problem statement. So we have a crowdsourcing model where we look out for opportunities where startups could kind of nominate themselves to the program. The second is through the different ecosystem partners, right? Chinsep and IGCC and a couple of other institutions which are out there help us to kind of identify. But rather, what we kind of look at it is that every cohort we kind of look at a specific theme in terms of what are the problem statements that we would like to address. I mean, for example, one of the problem statements was also the circular economy, right? I mean, in terms of solutions that can help us kind of make the different enterprises sustainable, and that was one theme that we did. The second is in terms of industrial IoT and how the industrial IoT startups ideas could be fostered. And one kind of opportunity or theme that we kind of focused is primarily on marketplaces. And this is how we kind of run each of these opportunities or cohorts for the startups. And wherever the specific set of startups or partners fit in, and then they kind of reach out to us or we reach out to them and kind of have a collaboration and kind of a working model created. In terms of the investment opportunities, right? So SAP do have an early stage investment instrument which is called SAP.io, and we use that fund to kind of support some of the startups. But again, we also have a pitch day end of every 12-month cycle where we expose the startups which are curated out of our program to external venture capitalists and funds like Lightspeed, SoftBank, and these funds come and invest into our portfolio of our startups. So we do it both ways. We kind of identify the opportunities for the future where we see a significant traction in terms of building these ideas. The second is in terms of helping these startups to scale and find opportunities by themselves. And this is how we kind of drive the program at SAP.
And how do you then integrate and use the knowledge in SAP itself? Because like your SAP labs, I can imagine that like you use it like very modern ways of co-creating, working together, new models of work in general, working with networks and ecosystems. And how is the connection then to like such a big company like SAP overall? Do you see that like also your colleagues in the end benefit from the SAP lab work that is done in the SAP labs around the globe?
Yeah, it's mutual, right? I mean, the startups get an opportunity to work with some of the cutting edge technologies that we are developing. At the same time, what the purpose that why we have started SAP Startup Studio is keep the conversation on innovation really high. And that's typically what we do. Our employees talk about these ideas, and our employees also have conversation with a lot of these startups. And kind of it's a seamless conversation about innovation which is happening. Again, to opportunities very specifically, we have also taken some of these startups to market outside India, and that's something that we do every time. And we also get opportunities where these startups could be fit into some of our portfolio topics, right? I mean, there are opportunities where SAP believes that, okay, yeah, this is something that it's available for the partners or startups to build. And these white spaces we extend to the startups to kind of innovate and build their solution there. So it's always mutual, and the core of what we are doing is in terms of keeping this conversation around innovation really active, and it's both internally as well as externally, because when you actually work with startup, you need to have a innovation culture internally also. Otherwise, you will not be able to sustain that engagement for long, right? I mean, that's at the core of what we do at SAP also. We always have a great innovation culture internally, and that we extend to the startup. And the startup also kind of adds fuel into that conversation.
Thank you. And I mean, like UrbanKisaan as an example for such a startup, how do you think, do you disrupt a company? Like, what can BASF learn from you? What do you think as a startup you can bring to the corporates that they don't have themselves, maybe, or maybe not enough? Maybe they have something in their DNA already, but what do you bring to them in such a corporation?
I would say that every corporate should have vertical farming as a part of their premises first and foremost. That will also enhance the overall culture of the company. Everyone should always plant basic sampling and see it grow. That gives a lot of peace more than anything. And that is a very important integral part of what we are based out of in Hyderabad here in India, and we are trying to do that with corporates as much as possible. And also another thing what we have is basically we have fruits and vegetables, obviously whatever we are growing, but we are creating the ready to eat salads, which are particularly focused on corporates and also for people who are busy, who still want to eat good food, but still do not have the time to prepare. Especially the exotic vegetables are difficult to prepare in an Indian atmosphere. So we have this concept called Farm Bowl. Farm Bowl is a salad bar, so we are also incorporating it with it. At the same time, this is with the stuff what we are growing in all that part. But of course, when using the technologies, we are always on the forefront with collaborating with corporates, because the startup can be a startup only if we are depending on multiple corporates for their expertise, and that's how we'll be able to work as a lean team. The beauty of a startup is you could make mistakes and you could rectify it immediately because you can operate with a lean team. And with such bigger corporations, we will always have the technologies provided with them, which can act as a plug and play model. And as a startup, you also know that the models keep changing. Today we are doing offline. Tomorrow we'll do online. Tomorrow we'll integrate both. So we'll need multiple solutions day in, day out. And that's what will help us by collaborating with good big corporations.
Thank you. And talking about corporations, Frank, are there any future activities planned? You mentioned the 3 deals that you made with companies and the example with the company in France. Are there any future activities directly planned? And also, what about India, as we are talking today about like corporate innovation in India and in Berlin?
Yes, we plan, of course, more deals, but we don't have a country focus. So far, the deals have been from Germany, from France, and from the US. For example, in Germany, we participated in a company called Hydrogenius, which contains the name hydrogen. And as you know, hydrogen plays an important role in the future energy transition we have. So they make a product that can absorb hydrogen and later release it again, which makes it easier and safer to transport. So far, we do not have a startup in India, but we have, of course, business in India. We have about 500 million sales. We have 400 employees, and we have locations in Ankleshwar, in Cuddalore, and in Greater Noida. So we are present, but of course with our classical products, which are polyurethanes. Like every third vehicle on the Indian roads contains our products. 2 out of 3 bicycles have our lighting based on LED, which we also do. And more than 50 million Indians sleep on our mattresses. So we are present there, but not with any startups yet. This is to come, and if there's interesting opportunities, we will surely take them.
Great to hear that. And the question is like, how do you think, or what do you think would need to increase that like you get to know these startups that might be interesting for you in India? Are there like, and also from your point, Anzy, because you're kind of in the middle, you're between the big corporate, but also like hosting, I think, the networking platform for startups and corporates in India. So are there like, is it already like easy enough to connect, or do you think it is like at the moment still easier to work with a startup in Europe, for example?
It's probably easier in the established market because we are simply more present there. We know the markets better. Europe is a saturated old market, so we know the players. India is growing fast, so and we only have 400 employees there, while we have 7,000 in Germany. So there's much more scouts in Germany than there's in India. But of course, the music will play in India and other Asian countries.
Anzy, do you see that with the SAP Labs, you provide kind of a platform for corporations to connect, or is it really more that you are scouting for SAP, or are you also acting as a platform?
Yeah, we do have a program which is called SAP Startup Social. This is the largest startup event hosted by any corporate in India. So we kind of get close to 100 different corporations and close to 200 different VC firms to be part of this event. And this is a full day event where we kind of create tractions in terms of conversation around innovation, conversation around the big technology topics that are coming. And that's how you build the ecosystem, right? The core belief is that there are many purpose statements that corporates can lead, right? One of the biggest issues that a lot of startups are facing, especially the deep tech startups are facing, is typically the deep tech startups, the time to value or time to market is pretty long, right? I mean, it's very hard for some of the firms to stay invested into that topic, and because the time horizon is a little longer. And that's where the corporates play a larger role, because if they see a purpose behind some of these great ideas, especially on the topics around sustainability and circular economy. And this is where we kind of help these startups to stay invested, stay focused on these different assets that they have, and help them to scale. And with that, I think if corporates come together, especially through the platforms like SAP Startup Social that we do every year, we can create a greater momentum where the corporates can come together and kind of bet on big tech topics and kind of drive it together. And we are very bullish on this aspect. As I mentioned, right, the amount of tech startups that you see in India is significantly coming up. And those who are following the startup space would know that there is recently an IPO by one of our startups, not SAP startup, but one of our startups in India, which is called Fresh Test. They got listed in the US. So the opportunities are unlimited, and especially with the technology startups picking up, I would see that there is a greater momentum if corporates come together and stay invested. Both from a technology point of view and both from an investment point of view, there is a significant traction that we can build in the market. Again, I don't consider this as a local phenomenon. I would see the markets are opening up. I don't traditionally see those boundaries anymore. I think I mentioned, right, in the last cohort that we had, we had a startup from Germany, which is part of our cohort. So the problem statements are much bigger. I think I don't think we can address this problem statement with one corporate or a couple of corporates. I think this is where all of us need to come together and kind of fuel these innovations.
And these are like the perfect ending words from you, Anzy, about like collaborating more, creating a platform, having you here today on the panel, exchanging ideas, how corporate innovation can help and create the future. And with that, like many thanks for participating. And I will hand over the floor to Amrita to like close the session for today. Because I know for some of you, this has been like not the first, but the third panel. And yeah, thanks for dialing in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Oina, for moderating the session. Thank you, OAV, for the final panel of the day. I really thank all the audience for being here, especially also the community joining us on Brella. It's been a fantastic day, and many thanks to all the partners who've supported us for the day. Impact Asia Berlin, definitely the German Indian Startup Exchange Program, and of course, OAV as well. And looking forward to more discussions. We have 2 more days of the conference. Please log in and try to make as much as possible with the network, and see you all around. Thank you.